What's up, everyone? It is Coach Damon here, and I wanted to make this video sharing with you an important lesson in the mental game. You know, the mental game is one of those things that is not very well coached, right? There are a lot of great mental game coaches out there, but just how many young youth goalies get that mental game training that they need? And I think all lacrosse goalies need mental game training, some sort of mental game training. It is a super important element of what we do as lacrosse goalies. When I interview the professionals and the top college guys, a lot of the podcasts we spend talking about the mental game. So I wanted to make this video talking about a very important mental game lesson, and my hope is that you understand this lesson and then you can then put it into practice and understand what you can do in your own goalie career, with your own youth lacrosse goalie that's going to help you, okay? So the lesson is this: you cannot coach yourself. You cannot coach yourself is the lesson. It's a lesson I learned from Dr. Rob Bell, who's a sports psychologist and a mental game coach. I took some lessons with him and I learned a ton of lessons, but when I heard this one in particular, it was like this extreme aha moment for me, because I've seen so many cases in my own life where it's so true. You cannot coach yourself. I've studied a lot of Buddhism, and there's one particular phrase that I like, which is when you light a lamp for someone else, you are lighting your own path as well, right? When you light a lamp for somebody else, you're lighting your own path as well, which is this lesson. You cannot coach yourself, but when I coach others, guess what? I am lighting a lamp for myself. I am brightening my own path when I coach others. So when I tell a youth goalie to be confident, right? And we're talking about confidence, and I'm just urging her to stay confident no matter what, that you're going to have these setbacks, but it's not about that setback, it's about that comeback, and we're talking about that. Guess what happens in my own life when I then have a setback? Those words that I was sharing with that young lacrosse goalie are still echoing in my head, okay? When I'm training, when I'm working with a young lacrosse goalie, in doing that and teaching him the techniques and the stance and everything, I'm lighting my own path. I've become a much better lacrosse goalie myself in through the coaching others. All right? So that's the first important thing that you should consider is when we coach others, we're also coaching ourselves. Super, super important point. I did a Zoom call with a young goalie, and he was feeling really upset because he had a bad game. Let in a bunch of goals, and he felt like it was his fault, right? How many of you goalies out there can relate to that? I know I certainly can. And he was asking me for some advice, and I asked him, so what would you tell another young goalie who had a bad game? What would you tell another young goalie who had a bad game? And he said, well, I'd tell him it's just one game, and if he keeps working hard, he can get back on the winning track. And I was sort of in disbelief, right? Like I couldn't have said it better myself. He already knew the answer. But guess what? We cannot coach ourselves. It's so easy to tell the right answer to another goalie. It's so easy to say to another goalie, hey, shake that one off. You're going to get the next one. But it's so hard to tell yourself that because of this lesson. We cannot coach ourselves. We cannot coach ourselves. Okay? So a lot of times, young lacrosse goalies, when they're struggling with some element of the mental game or some element of lacrosse, guess what? They already know the answer. It's just that we cannot coach ourselves. But when we coach others, when we help others, guess who you're helping as well? Yourself. Right? So if I need to help another goalie through that issue of him or her feeling bad and feeling like they let the team down, when that happens to me, I'm ready. I know how to handle that because those voices are still in my head. All right, so that is the second point of this. The third point is All the greatest athletes in the world have coaches. Okay? Novak Djokovic just won the French Open, right? Maybe the best tennis player, one of the best tennis players of all time. Guess what? He's got a coach. He's got several coaches. Growing up in my athletic career, I always had coaches. When I played college lacrosse, obviously, I had a coach. And then I went over into online business and running an online business. And then one day I woke up 5 years later and I realized, you know what? Like, I have been playing alone for 5 years. I've been going at it alone for 5 years. And then I hired a coach, several coaches, in fact, and it just took my business to a whole new level. Why? Because we cannot coach ourselves. Even if you know the answer, it's so hard to coach yourself. Okay? So everybody should not only be coached, obviously everyone should be coached, but everyone should be a coach. If you're a 12-year-old goalie out there listening to this, you say, but Coach Damon, I don't know enough to coach another goalie. To which I say, yes, you absolutely do. You absolutely do, right? We are horrible coaches of ourselves, and just hearing it from another person can be that trigger that we need to make that point stick in our lives, right? What do you think is more impactful? If I say to myself, hey, Damon, you're a great goalie, you're going to dominate today. Or if I get a text message from a teammate, bzz, Damon, you're a great goalie, you're going to dominate today. Same exact message, but you know what? I want that second one, that text message from somebody else, way more powerful. So even if you're a young goalie and you say, I don't know enough to coach. Yes, you do. Okay? And if you go, no, Damon, I really don't, then here's the challenge for you. I have for you. Learn something. Study. Right? Go to Lax Goalie Rat and look at one of the sessions or read one of the articles and become an absolute expert in that topic and then go teach that to another goalie. All right? You don't have to be better than that goalie in every single element of this position in order to help them, right? Just get better in one element. Learn about some element of the mental game. Learn about some technique. And then teach that to another goalie or to a teammate. And remember, by teaching that concept, by helping others, we're helping ourselves. So not only should you be coached, everybody should be a coach. Because we cannot coach ourselves. But when we coach others, guess what? We are lighting that lantern for ourselves. We are brightening our own path, and it is awesome. It is awesome. I've seen it so many times in my life, and when I heard that lesson from Dr. Rob Bell, like I said, it was a huge aha moment. All right, so here's the challenge I have for you today, and think about this question. Before I get to that, I almost forgot one point. I wrote down the points I wanted to cover, and I almost forgot one, and it is this. Think about the negative things you say to yourself. If we were really meant to coach ourselves, would we say these negative things? Sometimes goalies will say things to ourselves that we would never repeat to anybody else, right? Like, you're a horrible goalie. You're the reason we lost that game. If we were meant to coach ourselves, why would we say that to ourselves? Think about that. Would you say that to any other person on your team, right? No. If you're coaching a goalie, would you say that to a goalie? Of course not. Right? But sometimes we say such negative things to ourselves because we are not meant to coach ourselves. We're meant to be coached. Yep. We're meant to coach others. Right? And in that relationship, we gain quite a bit. So back to the challenge. That's the final point I wanted to say. Back to the challenge. Who can you help today? Who can you help today? Pull out your phone, and I want you to try and help one person. And one of the ways that I like to do it is think of a issue that you're having in your own game. Maybe it's confidence, right? I want to work on my confidence. So what would you say to another goalie who's struggling with confidence? Write down 5 things that you might say. such as, hey, you're a great goalie, all the hard work you're putting in is going to pay off. And text that to that goalie. Text that to a teammate. Text that to a friend. And remember, when you help others, when you coach others, we're coaching ourselves. That's the lesson for today. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. Take care.